Welcome to another unauthorized and rum-fueled treasure hunt in the sharky waters around the Gatsby Islands with Pirate Queen Raae! I'm your host, Captain Ola Vea, and this is the Pirate Princess. And ikke gå ennå, vi skal jo fortelle litt.
So what have you been up to the last couple of days?
Skål!
Skål!
Skål! We went to this conference here. Sanity had a structured content conference. Whoa.
And we all got swag.
Yeah, Lillian joined us and it was great.
Yeah. It wasn't really, we went to the watch party in Oslo, so we got to see the recordings from kind of what was happening in San Francisco during the night while we were sleeping. And then and then we also saw some of the live sessions yesterday when kind of San Francisco woke up and we had dinner at the Sanity offices. And Lillian was asking, why is all this stuff free? And I tried to explain to her about like marketing and how they then wanted her to test out, wanted us to test out Sanity. And then she asked me, what is Sanity? And I said, it's a place where you can store your text and your drawings and pictures, and then you can combine them and make new things. And she was like, yes, I want to try that. So the swag is working.
Mamma forklarte hva det var, så sa du at det var tekst og bilder og sånn, så du kunne putte inn og lage nye ting. Så ville du prøve det?
Ja.
Men Lillian, du har prøvd det!
He's saying, well, you did try it at once.
Nei, det har jeg ikke.
Du husker
No,
ikke
I haven't.
Det? Kan jeg fortelle det? She doesn't remember, but I actually tested it out because I wanted to see if it, how easy is it to use this. So I let her upload a couple of photos and write tags. So she was, spelling out some of the tags, and then she clicked upload, and it worked. She doesn't remember now, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, because you are working on a little site for Lillian's kind of artistic expressions.
Yes.
And are you now convinced that you will stay with Sanity for that site?
Men Lillian,
or am I putting you on the spot now?
Vi skal putte bildene dine og sånn på internett, og mine bilder og sånn på internett, ikke sant? Hører du hva jeg sier? Har du lyst til å bruke Sanity da? Lillian is convinced at least.
Lillian is convinced.
We're using Sanity for now. It's I have no complaints. No complaints. And I have no complaints, and we'll see. But I make no promises, and I'll make no promises. But I love the conference, and this structured content thing is really good for Lillian and me. We like that. We like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Maybe I should send her. Maybe I should send her to her little corner here.
Yes, I think so. She is focused. And
she tried to get there. But I was like, no, you'll have to stay for a little while. Oh yeah. So
Colby is here. We'll get back to that a little bit later in this stream.
But can you put him on the thing there?
Of course I can. There
he
is.
Look, he's got little... Lillian, kom!
He's asking Lillian to come back to have a look at the picture. She's going to be super jealous.
Det er han vi skal møte når vi drar på badekonferansen, Lillian. Se der, se hva han har.
Oi.
So some super secret Norwegian scheming happening there. So for the Norwegian audience, you can hear that. But
yeah, she says it
For
looks
everyone
like
else.
puppies. It looks like
Oh,
puppies.
that would be cute. That would be a little scary as well if those were live puppies.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you want to take out the tasker? The tasker?
Okay, so we're already doing it?
I think so. Let's hit it.
Okay. I was just doing something over here. There. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no! Look! I still have that!
Oh, you still have the remote file one.
I need to update my tasker bell with this post-it note here. Oh no!
You do. I mean, this is structured content
on it. What?
This is structured content, and your little post-its are the atomic content pieces that we learned about at the structured content conference that we just came from.
Absolutely, I'm very much into that kind of thing.
I'll just chat a little while you do that. So I found, I think earlier on this stream, we had Benedict of Userlist on when we were helping Miriam create her conference buddy site.
Yes.
And he said, it's really important to get the data models correct, because then everything else is easier, but you shouldn't overthink your data models, because then you never get started. And I really that's what popped into my mind when they were discussing content, structured content, and how if you make it kind of too detailed, it's going to be hard to update and it's going to be too cumbersome. But also, if you get it right, everything else will fall into place if you get your data. So that's also a data structure, just that they call it content because it's more kind of, the marketing and the content pieces of your website. But they were saying, okay, if you get the structure of your content right, everything else is going to fall into place and be easier. So I felt like that was very analogical very similar to what we kind of more on the engineering side, work we do with data modeling. So I felt it's just two different domains, but it's the same kind of challenges of doing it too much or too little. And it's really hard to know, you feel it when you got the correct data model or content model, but it can be hard to kind of know exactly how that should look like. So I found that was a little bit interesting, that it's kind of similar. We're not that far apart, the content people and the developers. So is your have you updated with your atomic content pieces?
Here it is.
Yes.
I have this template here for how you do a Tinkerbell task. If you remember Tinkerbell from Peter Pan.
Yes, I do. So what are we going to do? So today we're going to learn how to do pagination when we are sourcing data. So whenever you're talking to an API, you might need to what's called paginate, because when you query something, you will only get part of what exists, and then you have to ask again for kind of the next items, and then again and again.
Yes.
And why are we doing this? Are we doing our big reveal right now?
Yes.
Our exciting.
Are you going to share screen then?
Yes, I am. I kind of already have. So. And I guess that's why Colby's in the chat. So we are doing this because we need to paginate to be able to solve issue 5 here in the Gatsby source Cloudinary plugin, because it only returns up to 500 result, which works for, I guess, most people. But if you have more than 500 assets in your Cloudinary account and you want to show all of those on your Gatsby site, you want to be able to get those after 500. So that is kind of why we're exploring pagination, and why we specifically are doing this in regards to the Cloudinary plugin, is that we are responsible now for getting the Cloudinary plugins up to date and bug free by the summer. So Cloudinary is our newest client. Yay!
Yeah. Du må være med danse, Lilla. Dans.
She wanted to join the dancing party.
She says you can't see me.
Okay, now you're dancing. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah. Colby's like, yay!
Oh, Lillian. Se, han lager sånn.
So that's our big reveal. Let's get on with our Tinkerbell
Yeah.
Taskable task.
Yes. So that was why. Did you say
That was
why
the
he
why.
needed 500?
So 500 is the max assets returned or resources returned when you query the Cloudinary API, and some people have more than 500, and then we need to kind of ask for the next batch. So that's what we're going to look at today.
So this guy, he has more than 500, and he wants the rest.
Yes.
Yep.
And how? That's what we're going to get into. But first, we're
how?
going to set up the kind of first query where we get the first set of results. And then we are going to look at how to do pagination. And Ola will get the choice between which one we're going to do first, because there's two ways of doing it. We can do it using the recursion, or we can do it using a do while or a while loop. So
Yes.
you got to get to decide while I'm kind of setting up the basic structure here. You can decide, well, if you want to do the recursion first or if you want to do the loop approach first. But hopefully we're gonna be able to get through both of them today.
I want loop.
You want a loop?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good then. So let's get started. So I have set up our Gatsby node environment. And we already have Cloudinary installed and required.
Are you sharing
I'm gonna make
screen?
this bigger. I'm not, probably, if you can't see it. I'm looking at it.
I'm guessing the type is too small. You gotta bump up the font. Oh, this is boring. There you go. Yeah, maybe a little bit bigger. Is that doable?
Let's see if I can manage to like work with this big of a font. Okay, so I've already kind of set up the rudimentary stuff that we do every time. So inside of our export source nodes, we want to create Cloudinary nodes. So we'll just be working kind of in the back end of Gatsby. We're not going to see this in the front end. We're going to work on sourcing data into the Gatsby data layer, and then we're going to look at it inside of the graphical explorer to see that we actually have the data that we expect. So let's get to work. First, we need to query or fetch Cloudinary assets.
Yes.
And then we need to, for each of these assets, for each asset, we need to create a Gatsby content node. So
Yes.
I have a little bit of cheat sheet there in case because we're quite new with the Cloudinary API. So that will be, I have a little bit of cheat sheet. Anyway, so the first thing we want to do, as I have written, is fetch the Cloudinary assets. So we'll do that by using the Cloudinary SDK. And for the kind of admin type API, you need to ask for the version 2 up here. But in our code, we don't think about that because we do it while we're requiring it. So Cloudinary is this kind of version 2 of Cloudinary. And there's a endpoint called, or a function called, function method called resources. So I usually call it result, whatever we get back, and we need to await because we are in async land. And if you are having some troubles in your Gatsby plugin with kind of these like inconsistent, like weirdly, sometimes nodes are created, sometimes nodes are not created, you should have a look at my latest email, yesterday's email, where I talk about how you might be creating nodes outside of source nodes or on create node. Because if we forget to await things, we might be kind of finishing up our source node. We get to the source node done here, but we are kind of keep making things because we've been kicking off asynchronous code that are creating nodes. So we have to make sure that we await our create Cloudinary nodes, and of course we await our request to Cloudinary. So we'll do Cloudinary API and they look like they have really good support because everything comes up for me inside of my VS Code. So it's resources. That's where we get all of our assets because they can be image, they can be video, and even audio, I believe. And then what we want to do here is resource type image. It seems to me that we cannot ask for all types of resources at the same time. We'll have to decide between image or video, but maybe Colby, if you're still with us, you can let me know if that is the wrong assumption. Okay, so when we have the results, we will have to loop through all of the resources that we have gotten back. And then for each of them, like I've written there in step 2, we'll have to create a node. So
Yes.
we'll grab the one resource, and then we'll create the node. And here I like to do, when we do these demos, I like to do a little bit of, logging to the console so we can see what's going on. So here, what we want to do is we want to create a Cloudinary asset. And the kind of unique identifier for a Cloudinary asset that we can actually read is what's called the public URL, I think. Oh, the public ID.
Oh, Colby says something here. I'll read him out.
Because I can't see you right now.
I think you can get all resources in a single request, but you can also specify the type.
Oh, so you can get all, but in this case, we're gonna go with images.
When he says
then,
I think he means that it's kind of maybe.
Okay, I'm gonna look into that because now I'm like not. So we need to create a node ID. And the way we do that is we let Gatsby create our node ID. And if we're working with a plugin, they will kind of add things to make our ID unique in the world of Gatsby. So all we have to make sure is that it's unique within kind of the Cloudinary world. We are not in a plugin right now, but I don't have any other things that I'm sourcing. So I'm going to just let Gatsby create our node from the resource public ID because it's unique in the Cloudinary world, but I'm pretty sure it's unique in the world of the internet. Because if I remember correctly, it's actually the URL for the image. So let's create a node ID, and then we'll just pop everything else that we get back from that resource onto our node. Then we need to, as we always need to do, we need to add these like internal information so Gatsby knows a little bit more about the node. And one is the type. So let's call it Cloudinary.
Paul is here.
Yay!
I'm late, but I'm here. Ahoy, shipmates.
Ahoy!
Lilian,
we are just setting up our initial query. So we are not doing the looping yet, or the pagination, I mean. So we'll need to add the content, and that needs to be a string, and then we create a content digest. I need to turn off some of these helpers because I get a bunch of them. We need to create the content digest. And again, we're using a helper function from Gatsby. So what this is, it's kind of like a hashed version of the data that we get from Cloudinary. And if this changes, Gatsby will actually, on subsequent builds, Gatsby will actually create the node again. But if it sees that the data or this hash, the content digest, hasn't changed, it doesn't create the node again. So it kind of saves us from doing the work that we might be doing in onCreate node, because that will not fire if nothing has changed if the content digest hasn't changed. And it's nice to just use the one that Gatsby provides. I see a lot of source plugins creating this hash themselves. I think maybe in really early versions of Gatsby, they didn't have this kind of helper function. But now that they do have create node ID and create content digest, I would just, use those, because why reinvent the wheel? So when we've done this, we should be sourcing some Cloudinary Cloudinary assets. So let's do a develop and see what we get. And hopefully this works on the first try, but you never know. Did not work on the first try. So let's have a good. Oh, I am not. So we're passing the Gatsby utils into our create Cloudinary node, and then I kind of forgot to receive them. So let's do it again. And we'll keep on going. Oh, must have played cloud name, but I did. Okay, so I'm gonna take everyone. I'm gonna take stop screen sharing because otherwise you'll see my secrets. Okay. I'm pretty sure I set them up correctly. Let's see. Cloudinary codename. So, Paul, do you have any news? I've seen you've been tweeting a lot lately. Oh, I forgot to import my environment variables. That's why. Are you following, Ola?
No, actually,
I feel alone.
Oh, Paul says, I will read Paul. Vet du hva Paul sier, eller? Han har nyheter. I do have news, yes.
Okay, let's, save them for my next break, because now I actually have it. I got the environment variables set up. So let's do it again. What had happened was that I didn't actually load these environment variable from my environment file, but I added that. And here we go. We'll see sourcing nodes, create Cloudinary asset, and we're sourcing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that is because the default max result is 10. So even though we saw in the issue that we want to get more than 500, that's because the biggest number we can put here in what's called max result is 500. But by default, it's 10. And I'm not going to push it up to 500 because sourcing will take a lot longer if we source all of our 600 images in the Cloudinary, because I've filled it with 600 images, so we will be able to test this. But for our case now, we're going to stay with the default 10 to keep on going. So
yes.
Have you decided on? Yeah, you decided on you wanted the loop, right?
Yes, loop.
Loop approach. So even though we now say max result 10, there are a bunch other images up there in Cloudinary. So we want to let them in the end use case of the plugin, we want the user of the plugin to be able to let us know how many images they want. So this is a demo, so we're just skipping all of the plugin options. But I want to be able to say, let's get 43 images, right? So okay, I want 43 images. Well, but add that.
If we're going to take Paul's news in the break, he'll have to write it.
Yeah, write your news.
So write your news. And I'll read it in the break, and I'll promise not to use John's voice.
I love it when you do Paul and John's voice. So imagine we want to do 43, right?
Yes.
So what we want to do now is that we'll want to do all of what we said. We want to fetch Cloudinary assets. And for each asset, we want to create a Gatsby content node. But then third, if there are more results, we kind of want to jump to, number 1 and do it all again. We want to fetch Cloudinary assets and we want to create Gatsby content nodes. And then if there are more results, we want to fetch again and we want to, create. So the way we can do that with Cloudinary, and this will be different from different APIs. So for most API has a way to kind of let it know where it should start fetching results. So let's say we have like a long list, and then we ask for resources, in this case from Cloudinary, and we get the first 10, and that's often called a page. And then we want to move down and get the next 10, a new page, and then move down and get the next 10, and we often call that a page. So to be able to know, like, okay, skip the first 10, we want to get from 10 to 20 instead of 1 to 10. We need to know where to kind of begin our next. We want to let this function know, okay, know something, so it know where it should begin. And that in the Gatsby, no, in Cloudinary's case, that's called the next cursor. So we want to put something in here in the next cursor.
Okay, we have to say goodbye to
something.
Colby. Bye,
Okay,
Colby.
bye. Thank you for popping by.
Having you.
I guess Colby knows this kind of stuff. We want to have something called the next cursor, and then at the bottom here, if and we get that information from Cloudinary. So when we ask for resources, if there are more resources, then we get the next cursor, and then we can add that to our next query.
Okay.
So if result next cursor, we want to do something. We want to kind of run all of this again. And one way to do, we always know we want to do it one time. And then if there is some value inside of result next cursor, we want to do it again. And that's where we can use a do while loop. So after the loop example, we're going to do what's called recursion. So we want to do while. So we say like we always want to do the fetching of the first page of resources. We always want to do that. And then while there is some data inside of the next cursor,
yes,
the result next cursor, we want to do this again. But also we want to use that, we kind of want to use that data. So what we then have to do is that we have to create a next cursor variable outside of our loop. And to begin with, we know that's going to be null. We're going to then give that to always give that to our query, Cloudinary query. And then we'll have to set it to whatever comes back from Cloudinary. So result next cursor.
yes.
And then while there is a next cursor, we want to keep on doing this. So as long as we get a next cursor value back from Cloudinary, we're going to run through all of this again. So we start with nothing in next cursor. So that means that it will start on kind of this from 0 to 10. We'll go from 0 to 10, the first page. Then the next time we're going to have some cursor information here that lets Cloudinary know that it should start on the 11th resource and go to 20, and then so on. It will keep on going. But what we'll see, I'm going to run this, is that it will not stop until it's done absolutely every image. So
now
it's going to
we
just
need
keep
Paul's news.
It's going to keep on going and going and going and going and going and going, but we actually want to stop it from going when we get to 43 results.
Oh, you're not okay. We're not ready for the news yet.
We can take it in between before recursion. We're going to take the news. So what can we do here to make sure that we only get 43 results? Do you have any ideas, Ola? I haven't prepped Ola on this, so you're allowed to say no.
I say no. I say no because
you say no.
I don't want to confuse this.
You don't want to confuse this. Okay. So I'm just going to check out my own kind of cheat sheet here just to make sure that I don't confuse people, because it's easy to get this messed up.
It's good to show people the right way. And when you get, errors, that's also cool. But starting out with,
Okay, so what we can do then is to change this, or we can have a look at how many how many results have we gotten, and then make sure that if we're over a certain amount of results, we're going to stop doing this. But what would happen then is that, we're doing this in 10 chunks. So we would go, 10, 20, 30, 40. And then if we check, is 40 more than 43? No, we'll get the next chunk, and that's going to be 50. So we'll do like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. But what we want to do is we want to do, the first 10, and then the next 10, and then the next 10, that's 30. And then the next 10, which is 40. And then just 3. We just want to do 3 at the end. So a way to do this is that we can play with this max results. So what we got 43. We're giving it 43, and let's call that limit. And then we can say, okay, we want to set the max result. And if the limit is bigger, smaller than 10, we want to use the limit. If not, we're going to use 10. And this doesn't make any sense, right? Because it's going to be like limit. It's going to be 43 all the time. So it's always going to be over 10. So what we'll have to do down here when we're setting the next cursor is we also need to set kind of the next limit. So limit, that after we run through this once, the limit is going to be limit minus 10. So it's going to be 43, then it's going to be 33, then it's going to be 23, and then it's going to be 23, and then it's going to be 13, and then it's going to be 3. And when it's 3, it's less than 10, and then we're going to use the limit and set that as our max result. So we can check that by doing a reporter info fetched, and then a number of, result or fixed result.
Ooh.
Resources.
Sorry about that.
Length. Resources. Resources. I cannot spell. Resources. Let's copy paste that. Okay, so we fetched result, research length, resources. But we'll see, like, okay, our next cursor is still always going to be, when we've gotten down to a certain number, it's just going to shrink and become negative, and we'll have like a negative result because that will be less than 10. So we need to get out of this looping at some point. And, if the limit at this point is less than 10, or is less than 10, we don't want to, or less than 0, we don't want to be looping anymore. So we only want to loop if there is more results and our limit is bigger than 0. So as long as we still want to fetch stuff, we want to, keep doing this loop. So limit has to be bigger than 0. And then we should see that it's fetching 10, 10, 10, 10, and then 3, if I've done this correctly. So yeah, we got, fetched, let's see, fetched 10 resources, fetched 10 resources, and then in the end, it fetched 3 resources here. So, boop, it's working. And if we can get the build to complete, we can have a look at it in the graphical explorer and see if we actually have 43, or if my logic is totally off and we have some other kind of weird number. So let's have a look at our graphical. We should be seeing here that we have these assets. Yes. Let's do public ID and then total count. We'll see that we have a lot of them, and we have, yes, we do have exactly 43, which is what we asked for. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. So let's do Paul's news. And after that, we're going to solve this using recursion instead of a do while loop I just have to say, meeting developers of different stripes and experience levels and all of that, some people understand loops easier than recursion, and some people actually understand recursion easier than loops. It's just two different ways of kind of continuously doing something. And in our case, I think both of them, will work, but there's probably some that will like argue that one is like slightly faster and one will something blah blah blah. But for our case, I think both of them are valid ways of solving this. Okay.
Can you unshare your screen then?
I will share my screen.
All right, so Paul has some news here. It's this here thing. He says, I've teamed up with Rive to create a blast from the past creative, performant, and accessible CMS Jamstack demo.
Woo! Okay, I think the point is you have to scroll through it because I think there's going to be like super nice animations.
Oh, yes, you'll have to wait for that. So, Paul will be doing an in-person meetup on June 1st in San Francisco and a follow-up virtual webinar on June 14th, which is not in San Francisco, then it's on the webs, the interwebs. You can register for both at gatsbyjs.com/demos/rise of the robots. And that's what we're looking at here. Okay, are you guys ready? Let's look at the animations. It's coming. Oh, yeah. Oh, I tried to scroll on the wrong screen here. That's funny. Look at this. It's Paul.
Ooh.
What are you going to do, Paul? Oh, yeah.
Is Paul releasing a butterfly to the world?
Lilian, kanskje du skal se på det her? Det kjempekult. Okay.
Det er ikke kult.
Tell her Paul made it.
Paul lagde den, Lilian. Er du klar nå? Se nå. Se nå. Se på den. Se på den. 1, 2, 3.
En sommerfugl.
Se! Hæ? Hvor ble den av?
Butterfly.
Hvor er sommerfuglen min? Hallo!
I kind of feel like kids these days don't get that amazed by these things because they're like, of course there's animation and blah blah on the web. They're like, of course.
Kan jeg spise sommerfuglen, liksom?
Ser ut som han har munn?
Nei.
Her question was, is he gonna eat the butterfly? What's up? This is some live user testing on a 7-year-old, Paul.
Yeah. So here is the virtual thing.
I think there's more animations if you keep on scrolling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, look at this!
That.
Oi, hva skjedde nå, Lilla? Oi, hei og hopp.
Hæ?
Oh, bzz, bzz.
Bzz.
De fikser den.
Bzz.
De lager roboten. Bzz. Au!
Keep on scrolling.
Rive is
Kan jeg
the...
se nedover?
Okay, Lilian sier we gotta keep going. Oh!
Det er den samme igjen. Nei, det er ikke han.
It's not the same guy.
Sånn.
This is looking slick, Paul.
Yeah, it's
So
very good.
who made the animations? Did
Oi!
you design the animations as well?
Oi.
Ooh. I feel like this is Matrixy. It's like they're plugged in.
Oi!
Yes, the Matrix, yeah.
Kult.
But I guess in the Matrix they were not robots, or are you a robot
Yeah.
when you're plugged in? I don't know.
Jeg synes han
But a little
katter
birdie
sammen,
told me that this will be Paul's first
Jeg vil se lenger ned.
time doing a live talk. So everyone go out.
Ah!
If you're in
And-
San Francisco,
go?
head on out to support Paul
Kan vi også
doing
lage
his first talk. Congratulations,
That's Paul's.
Paul.
Yes, and he also said that there's a blog post. I don't see the comments now because I have full screen.
Oh,
But-
he's saying that the robot in the Rive section is interactive. Hover over it.
Oh, all right. In the Rive section, that's all the way down. Oh, there you go. Okay. Hello. I'll scratch your nose.
It's
I am
not.
hovering.
I think maybe you're on the wrong one. Is that the right one? Maybe it's the one above Rive.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's this one?
Gzzt. Gzzt.
Wow.
Gzzt. Oh, okay, yeah, something happened. This stood up. This is an arrow. I see they want me to. Okay, are du klar? Altså. I am hovering.
Pappa, kan vi også lage sånn?
We are messing up. We're like live user testing this, and this is not going so. Oh,
Lillian says, "Can we also make this?" Det er veldig vanskelig.
I guess we have to figure it out.
And also, Paul says, "Okay, so people should try that out on their own. You know, it's not. Sometimes stuff doesn't work on stream because my computer is kind of
Heated.
Yeah, it's very hot."
Paul is laughing.
Yeah. Se på Paul, Lillian.
We're gonna play some more with it. It looks really good. It looks really,
Also,
really good.
And Paul also says there's a blog post too that's here. It starts up here. Building Rise of the Robots. It's some kind of video here. Hi there, welcome back. And then I'll be doing the talk in-person event. Flashback.
Ooh.
I don't know why I keep. Look at this.
There's performance information, all the good stuff.
Oh,
okay, I'm getting eager.
Post.
I'm getting eager to do recursion now. People can read the blog post on their own.
It's his inspiration is from the past, and I love the past too. The past is great.
Okay. So Paul says, head on over and try to fill out the form and enter an incorrect email address. So everyone try that at home.
I'll do it. I'll do it right now. You just go ahead with your recursion thingy. Anytime, Paul.
Anytime.
This looks great.
I mean, if anybody else watching, you know, has something they want to plug, you can DM it to me or Ula, and we'll include it in the newsletter or maybe even on stream. If we have sometimes building takes time, and we need to fill in the slots. So we made this work using a while solution. In this case, a do while. So another way to do this would be with recursion. So then we're not going to have any of the do. Let's just go back to kind of where we were at. I think this would be correct. Yes. We're back. Okay. So another way to do this would be recursion. And that is if we call back to the same function that we are already in. So this is our whole function. And then if there are some results, if results has a next cursor, we are going to call the same function, create Cloudinary nodes, and we're going to call it again. And then we need to pass it some things, because we still, like, if we did, if we kept it at this point, we would send in the next cursor. So I want to create a kind of options object. So we still want the limit to be 43, or maybe let's do 23 in this case. It's faster. And then we're not going to pass it in any next cursor when we begin. But then at this point, we need to pass in the limit, and we need to do something with the limit, but just let's pass it in as is. And then we need to pass in a next cursor because we need to know where we're going to start next. So I'm going to pass in the next cursor. So what happens is that first we call the create Cloudinary nodes with the Gatsby utils and the limit of 23. We do everything, fetch the Cloudinary assets. And for each asset, we create the Gatsby content node. And if there are more results, we kind of want to jump to number 1 and do it all again. And we do that by saying, let's just jump back up here and do it again. And we keep calling at the same function again and again. And that's why it's called, recursion. We're like doing the same thing again and again. It's calling itself. But in the same way as with the do while, we need a way to kind of break out of this loop. And the way we break out of this loop is when there is no more next cursor. But as the same as with do while, in this case, it will just keep on going. It will just keep on going and going and going, because we don't, or it will keep going until there are no more resources in the in your Cloudinary account.
Yes.
But as we did with our loop, is that we want to make sure that we kind of get out of the loop at 23. So again, why didn't I check that out earlier when you were talking? But I didn't. So again, to make sure we do this correctly.
Because you loved to watch Paul's robots.
I did. That's
They were
exactly
great.
why.
You know, I think he got somebody to make them, because isn't that what Paul likes to do? To like get some good designer to do the design and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, so again, we kind of need a max results like we did earlier.
Yes.
So we need our const max result, and we did the same kind of logic where if it's less than 10, use the limit, but if it's more than 10, then use 10. And we're getting our limit from the function, and we're also now getting next cursor. So when we started off, we're only giving the limit, but then when we run it again, we give it the limit and also the next cursor. So we have to receive both of them, even though we just use one of them when we kick it off. And then we have max results, and we have the next cursor, and we can keep going and going and going. But at the same way we had to do earlier, if we run through this now, we have 23, it's the limit. We come here, we get the limit and the next cursor. So in the beginning, our limit is 23 and our next cursor is nothing. So it will start on that first page, as we call it, from 0 to 10. And the limit is 23, so it's over 10, so we're going to use 10. So our max results here, it's going to be 10, and our next cursor is going to be undefined. And we run all through this code, and we get down here, and we check if there are more results. Let's run it again. Our next cursor has updated, so we get the next set of results, but our limit hasn't been updated. So we'll keep on going until there are no more results. So again, we need to create a next kind of limit and use that. What we're doing here is that we know we're going to get back, 10 or less results, because we've said that we want to do 10. And like in a more real world case, we would up that to 500. So if people just want 43, we get that in the first request. But here, to be able to see the pagination, we've decided to do 10. There are, the use cases where you want to minimize the number of results you get. In this case, we're not actually getting the media or the assets. We're just getting kind of information about it. But if you were downloading these images, you probably do not want to have that at 500, because you can, even I've seen some cases and issues in different media plugins that there are issues with kind of the internet provider not allowing you to download so much at the same time. So then you want to make sure that you are asking, for less results at the time. So we are back, and this should work again. Let me just double check that. So we are awaiting create Cloudinary nodes, Gatsby utils. We're limiting it to 23. We are grabbing the limit, and we're also grabbing next cursor, which is nothing to begin with. We're doing some fun stuff with the max results so that we actually get 3 at the last one, at the last round. And then we're updating our next limit so that our limit kind of decreases. Okay. So, this should work. So let's do yarn develop and see what happens.
So we met some cool people at the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Like Elizabeth, isn't that her name? Elizabeth Irgens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then and she's working with Node.js too.
Yeah, she was working with like Docker containers and stuff. It sounded really cool.
They
Like
have
I
60
know nothing
little
about that.
Node.js applications there at the company she works with. So they have all these newspapers, like local newspapers, all over Norway, and they have a centralized um, centralized IT department downtown
Okay.
here in Oslo.
Mhm.
And she's working, and they have, so she said like article, that's a Node.js application.
Mhm.
And you have these little boxes that you get in the articles. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. No, det var vänta, gå.
Telefon till mamma.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh.
And
I'm
then,
trying to like force an error here, but yeah, okay.
and she said that so I asked her, so do you get a lot of complaints? And she said, so let's say you're a journalist, up in the northern part of Norway, on the border with Russia, and you're writing your article, and suddenly there's something wrong with the article thing, and then they send in tickets. So she says it's real cool because they're not like users; they're actually colleagues. So she says it's really cool, and they're cool. They're also very cool people, and so she loves it, and she says she learns a lot. That's great.
That's really cool.
Yes.
So I'm trying to. I was thinking we should get an error. We are okay. So we fetched 10 resources, but we are not fetching like the next batch of 10 resources. So something is wrong.
But we don't get an error.
We don't get an error, but I think if we let this keep on building,
Yeah,
it should be working.
and that's one of the things in the docs, in the Gatsby v4 plugin docs. It's structured errors.
Yeah,
You think
but
that
I
would
also
help?
got no, it's a different kind of error. It's what's called it's about the creating nodes outside of the and not awaiting the work good enough. But I also see that we forgot to put if the next limit is above 10. I just think I'm impatient. We're just gonna let this run a little bit, because I did this error when I was like prepping and looking at how to do this, because it feels like this still feels pretty like good. Our code feels pretty good. But then let's see what happens when we keep on building.
Yeah.
If these actually end up coming up, because we're just seeing, no, it's actually doing 43 nodes. So I don't know exactly where they're coming from. Oh yeah, we didn't do a clear. Sorry. We didn't clear this. So
that's why maybe then.
Yeah. So let's clean it, and I'll I don't know, this is not good like teaching, because now I was trying to make a point and not fixing an error that I saw that I made so that you could like debug it with me, but now I'm like messing it all up.
That's fine, you can still debug it with us.
Yes. So it's still making 10, still making 43. It's still making 43 total nodes. So let's see. I'm just gonna let it build all the way, and we'll see how it goes.
So then I have a question then about Elizabeth Irgens. So how similar do you think these Node.js applications are to the kind of stuff that we're doing with Gatsby plugins? Do you think there are any similarities?
I mean, there are similarities with code because it's it's written in the same language.
But don't you think they're like sourcing data and
they
using
probably
it somewhere
are.
else? Yeah, I think so.
They probably are.
They're probably just fetching it from the CMS and putting it into things, and don't you think?
Okay, so we're getting total count of 10.
That's good.
So something I've done something wrong here. Okay, so we have the limit 42, create Cloudinary Gatsby utils, and then we do a limit and the next cursor.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I've done something wrong. We'll need to. But one thing that I saw that I've done wrong is that I'm not awaiting this next round.
Yeah.
So that's not good. But there's something else wrong. I think I did something wrong in my prep code. So let's run through this. We are getting, so we're doing limit 42. And we are getting 42. And then there is a no next cursor. So let's do a, a reporter info. And then we're going to fetch, or we're going to say, we're going to do limit. And then we're going to do next cursor.
Yep.
And then the number of result. No, let's do that. And let's see what happens. Okay, so we had next cursor undefined. And then if there is a result next cursor and next limit is above 0, we should run it again. So why isn't it running it again? Let's put this information further down. And add our next limit. So here, our next cursor is going to be result, next cursor. And then our next limit is going to be next limit. And figure out why. Maybe I messed up my recursions. I do like loops better than recursions, actually. Yeah, or I understand them better.
Yeah, me too. That's why I wanted it.
Okay, so we have next limit is undefined and next cursor is undefined. So something is wrong here.
Good.
Am I doing next cursor wrong? Oh, yes. It's next cursor because it's from the results and that's by it's underscore. And then our next limit is limit minus 10. So why? Oh, I was doing this. I didn't do the next limit. I did next cursor. Okay. Now we should be looking at. So it's really funny how these kind of not rules, but like how people name things. So on the server side or like in APIs, we often use underscore between words, which I guess is called snake case because it looks like a snake kind of up and down. But then for JavaScript front-end code, we mostly use camel case, which has little bumps because you use capitalization. So especially when I get a little tired, like you forget that, oh, this is coming from the API. So not obviously, but so it's underscore while we were coding kind of in our preferred way, which is with camel case. So now that we see this, it's like going down and we should be having more, even though it's not. Yeah, so we have limit 42, next cursor, and then next limit 32, but it's still saying sourcing nodes done. It's still not doing this correctly. Oh, again, I didn't fix that. So, oh boy.
That's
not
fine.
easy. This is me. So let's see if it will actually run through, Are you with me? Do you think this will work? Oh, there we go. Look at that. We are fetching more stuff.
Yes.
Yay. Okay, so let's remove our thing and let's have a look in GraphiQL. Oh, I stopped the running. let's do less. Let's do, let's do 22 instead to make sure that we are getting correct. If we keep on using the same numbers, there might be some lag in the system and we don't know if we've done it correctly or not. So if Paul is still here, do you love recursion or do you love, loops? What's your preferred way of doing it?
I'm guessing that he likes recursion.
Yeah, maybe. You might be right. So we're waiting for the building, 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 boom, boom, boom.
So I
boom,
didn't see that blog post, but was that from back in the days when he was like doing Flash and stuff?
I think he was like referencing stuff that he did back in the day.
Yeah, but was it Flash?
Total count. Yeah, he did Flash. So his intro into Paul's intro into web development was through Flash.
That's
so
cool.
Here we are, 22.
Yep.
Boop. Very good. And now I can show you what goes wrong and how easily it is to kind of mess up the life cycle of node creation. And check out on queen.raae.codes. I wrote about that in yesterday emails. That would be the 25th of May. You can look for that, where I talk about how you absolutely must await all of the node creation before being kind of done with source nodes, with sourcing nodes, because you're only allowed to create nodes while in the source node lifecycle kind of hook or the onCreate hook. You're not allowed to create nodes at any other point. And here I'm good. I'm awaiting create Cloudinary nodes, but then I made it into a recurring function where, we run it once, but then if we need more result, we're going to run it again. And when I was coding this myself, like I kind of forgot to wait inside of here because it just like, I awaited my results and, didn't think too much about it. And if we run it again, we should see if there's going to be enough. If it's going to be enough for it to happen, is good. We're going to see the source node start, and then a lot of assets being created or content nodes being created, and then we saw the end, and then it's still creating nodes. So, so here it fetched 2 resources, and it's obviously it's inside of Gatsby has already moved on to on pre-extract queries and creating pages down here, and here created pages statefully. And here it's, creating some content nodes, but the sourcing was done at this point. But we still keep on fetching things and creating nodes. And that is because we're not awaiting it. We're kind of just saying, go out there and do that, but we're not awaiting until you're done. We're not waiting for you to be done. Just go out there and create the things. But in Gatsby, that's not allowed. You have to create them while still inside of source nodes. Otherwise, you will see inconsistencies. So if your source plugin that it worked in version 3 and version 2, it will stop working, but you won't get really good indications. It will just be these weird inconsistencies that are kind of it works and develops sometimes, but not, because sometimes you'll be able to create these nodes kind of fast enough that they're kind of inside of source nodes, but then when you start sourcing a lot more, you will see these inconsistencies. Or if you're going into build, which is more strict, you will see these inconsistencies. So you get these weird error reports where it's oh, it kind of works, but it doesn't really work. We don't really understand when and how. So that's one of the things that you have to be very vigilant about. And as you can see, it's pretty easy when you're doing multiple things here that to forget to put that await on when we are calling that function again. So just wanted to put that out there. Okay, I think we're done.
Yes. Lilian,
Yes.
Lilian.
Ja.
Du må komme. Ska vi si ha det?
Do we want to do a summary?
Nei, vent litt. Nei. Men veldig snart. Yes. Absolutely.
I do have the do while example from earlier in a separate thing here, so we can talk through both of them. Okay. So get up that Tinkerbell thing. There it is. So is it what?
What?
Today we have been paginating through Cloudinary resource results. Often when we are talking to APIs, we only get a certain amount of results back, and often we want to go and grab the next batch of results. That's often
Yes.
called pagination. It's called pagination, and each batch is called a page. So you
Wait,
have
wait,
a
wait. Are you
long...
already on how now?
No,
Good.
because I'm explaining like the
What it
concept
is.
more.
Okay,
What.
good. Yeah.
So we have a long potential list of resources we want to get to, but we're only getting like the first X in the first results, which we then call a page, and then we have to do the next one and the next one and the next one, and that's called pagination. And the why is because that's one of the issues that we need to solve for the Cloudinary source plugin, which we are now responsible for, because we are we have Cloudinary as our new client, and we'll be updating or making sure that their source plugin and the transformer plugin is up to date and bug free by the summer. So this was one of the first issues we have tackled, and that made me realize that pagination is something we often leave out of tutorials because it's like it complicates things, and also we as developers, and this has been shown many times where we're like, well, we're never going to have more than 500 resources, so let's just skip it. But then suddenly one day you're above 500 and this issue comes to like bite you in the behind. And I'm guilty of that myself. So that's why we wanted to show you how to paginate, so you can just pop that in there from day one. Okay. And then I guess we're at the how.
We have two hows.
Yeah, so you can solve pagination with recursion or a loop. So since we started with the loop, let's start with the recursion now. So the recursion version is the one we see on screen. I'm going to make it one smaller so we can actually kind of see all of it.
Yeah.
We still almost can't. Well, I'm going to remove our comments, and then that will make it all work. Almost. So we are creating Cloudinary nodes.
Wait,
and
can you maybe shrink? No, you can't. Sorry.
Do you want me to shrink it even more?
No, absolutely not. No, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So in our source nodes, when you are recursion means that you're calling the same function. You're calling the function you're in from within. So we're inside create Cloudinary nodes, and this is the Cloudinary create Cloudinary nodes function, and then we're calling it again inside of that function, and that's what recursion is all about. So to kick off recursion, we always have to start it kind of outside of itself. So in our source nodes, we kickstart it by calling create Cloudinary nodes, and we give it a limit. So we only want 22 nodes. So we hop on into our Cloudinary create Cloudinary nodes. We ask Cloudinary for results, and it's going to be 10 results in the first query that we get back. Then we create nodes for each of these resources, Gatsby nodes for each of these resources. And then we say, oh, but if there are more resources available for us, there is data inside of this next cursor. So that is like the first one, you start at the top, and then you get 10 resources. And then the next cursor will be, if it's a simple implementation, that will then just be like 10. But as we'll see as you will see, if you log out this data with Cloudinary, it's actually a much more kind of complex. So cursor is like, I guess it's pointer. It points to where it should start the next query, like the next query for resources. And then we send that. We ask create Cloudinary nodes to run again. So we're jumping back to the top here and doing it all again. But this time we're starting at this cursor that Cloudinary gave us. And then we also have decreased our limit because we already have 10. So now, like, we needed 22 and now we only need 12 to fulfill our needs. So we go back up and we have limit is 12 and we have a next cursor. We send that into the Cloudinary query, do it all again. And now our next limit will be 2 And we also have an next cursor again. So we'll jump back up to the top. Our limit will be 2. And we see if our limit is below 2, we're going to use that. So now we're asking for just 2 results. And then we go through everything again, and we're back at the bottom. And this is how we're breaking out of our recursion, is that we're now, okay, next limit, we had 2 minus 10, that's minus 8. Is that less than 0? Yes, it is. So let's not keep on going. But if Cloudinary only had 5 results, that would also break us out of the loop, because after this first asking for 10, we wouldn't have a next cursor because there wouldn't be more results. So then we would break out of this, or like we would stop our recursion, because if there weren't any next cursor, we also wouldn't be kicking it off again. I hope that makes sense. Now I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but yeah.
No, it was good.
Okay, so it's a function that calls itself, and then it keeps on doing that, and we'll keep on doing that for infinity if we don't have these rules for when it should stop.
Yes.
And that's what we got at the bottom here. Okay.
Yes.
So I have a do while. So in the same case as with our recursion, we kick it off with some information about the limit. And let's do, so I don't have to do it so many times, 25 in this case. So we're kicking it off with a limit of 25, and we grab the limit. But what we do here, we don't want to call the same function from within itself again. We want to do this using a loop. And we know that we're always going to ask for queries once, and then we're going to, check these checks to see if we're going to do it again. And our check will be kind of similar to the ones that we had for recursion. We're going to do whatever is inside of here while this is true. So while there is a next cursor and while the limit is over 0, we're going to keep doing it. So kind of the inverse of recursion, because then we said, if these exist, let's call again. But then, it's not the inverse. I guess we ask for the same thing there. We ask for the same thing in recursion. But here we are doing it while this is true. So to be able to save some of this information between our runs, we declare a next cursor, and we set that to null. We don't, that was the same as us in recursion, not giving a next cursor when we kicked off the first run of create Cloudinary nodes. And we had that information coming into the function, because when it's going to call itself again, like that information needs to come into the function. We can't hold it within the function. But here, when we're doing loops, we can set the next cursor and we say null. So in our first run here, again, we're asking for max results of 10 with the next cursor of null. We run through everything. We come down to our while condition, and we say, is there a next cursor? Yes. Is the limit about above 0? And yes, it is, because it's now 25 minus 10, which is 15. And instead of jumping all the way to the top of kind of this function, we jump to the top of the do here, and we do this again. So is 15 above less than 10? No, it isn't. So we'll set max results to 10. We'll run through everything. We come down to the bottom, and then we have 15 minus 10 is 5. 5 is still more than limit, so we're going to do this again. And now we have 5, which is less than 10. So we're going to be asking for only 5 results or resources in this run. We do everything. We get all the way to the bottom here, and we do limit, which is 5 now, and we subtract 10, which is minus 10. Is that more than 0? No, it's not more than 0. So let's not, keep on doing this. While is false. And we don't do anything more. So that's the loop version. And these are both valid approaches to doing pagination, and it depends on what you are comfortable with. You really need to kind of understand your own code. So if you understand loops better than recursion, then use loops. Use a loop. If you understand recursion better, or you want to get better at recursion, you could use recursion. Boo! Whew, this felt like Comp Sci 101, which is, it's been a while since I explained these things or thought about them this thoroughly. And the good thing about kind of this case in the Gatsby sense is that if we remember to wait this top level create Cloudinary nodes, like we it's not that easy to fall into that kind of error of not awaiting every time you call it, because we are kind of just we're keeping the code, you know, very similar, and we don't have to remember to wait again when we call ourselves again, or the function calls itself again.
Whew. Yep.
And this code should all be up on GitHub, which is linked in the description below in a couple of minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
Ok, Lilian, du må komme.
Nei.
Du må ikke. Du
And I'll be
må
writing
ikke.
about it in the email tomorrow, so sign up at
Ok,
queen.raae.co.
det gjør jeg det uten deg da, Lilian. Nei, ok. Ok. Har du mat? Da spiller vi først og blåser etterpå. Du må holde den nærme den.
She's not allowed to eat and blow on the party popper.
This has been another unknown rise and rum-fueled treasure hunt in the sharky waters around the Gatsby Islands with Pirate Queen Raae, your host Captain Uravia. And this is the Pirate Princess. Next time we're having a guest, no? It's the one
We might.
It's the one after that again.
Yes.
On
But we
the
might next week as well.
Which date was it?
June 16th, Grayson
Hello.
what's his last name?
Grayson Hicks.
Yes. Will be on, and we'll be adding Gatsby image CDN support to his remote images plugin. Okay, bye everyone. And if you have any requests or ideas that you want to get into the Cloudinary plugins, head on over to the repos and let us know.